would like to ask all those speaking in the commission and public to speak slowly. We have simultaneous Spanish translation this evening, and it'll really help be able to, allow the translators to go ahead and simultaneously translate these items. Okay, Leslie.
Yes, meeting procedures. Thank you, Chair Saudi. Before we begin, I'm going to say again that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will include Spanish language simultaneous interpretation provided by qualified interpreters on the Spanish Zoom channel for Agenda Item 2. You can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. And we have posted a link to the Zoom meeting in the description for the video on YouTube. If you are participating in person and would like Spanish interpretation, please step up and Michaela O'Brien, who is assisting tonight, will provide you with an interpretation device. As a reminder, we ask that everyone participating tonight speak slowly to allow our interpreter to effectively express your comments. And now I'm going to give a pause for the Spanish translation. No? Okay, well, I'll move on then. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube and through Zoom, and viewers can provide comments by telephone by calling 669-444-9171. And the meeting ID is 815-0028-1975#. Or comment and watch directly through Zoom using the link on the agenda. If you wish to speak during a public comment period and are participating virtually, use the raise the hand icon at the bottom of the screen or press *9 if you are phoning in. Folks attending in person will speak first, followed by those participating remotely. Displayed on the podium and the projector is a timer to help you stay within the allotted time frame, which will be 3 minutes tonight. You are invited, though not required, to introduce yourself and say what part of San Rafael you reside in, or if from outside of San Rafael. We are offering closed captioning for this evening's meeting on Zoom. Select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable this feature. And as mentioned, we are providing Spanish interpretation for item 2.
Thank you, Leslie. Let me now describe the meeting procedures. We will begin with a staff report. Members of the public will then be invited to speak. You will have 3 minutes for public comment. Commissioners will have the opportunity to ask questions of staff, applicant, or public after each segment. We will close the public hearing and bring the matter back to the commission for discussion and action if necessary. Next on the agenda is urgent communication. This is the time for anyone with urgent communication on a topic not on the agenda to address the commission at this time.
So if you do have would like to comment on something not on the agenda, you may come up to the podium and or use the raise a hand icon if you're attending virtually. And no one wishes to speak on items not on the agenda.
We'll now move on to the consent calendar, which has 1 item. Approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of February 28th, 2023. Are there any comments from the public on the consent calendar?
If you'd like to speak on the consent calendar, please step up to the podium or use the raise the hand icon. And no one wishes to speak on.
Commissioners? No. If there are no commissioner comments or edits, I would entertain a motion. Please announce your name prior to the motion or second.
Is that for approval of the minutes?
Correct, yeah.
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
It's Commissioner Haveman. I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
We'll go ahead and move to roll call.
Oops. Commissioner Mercado is absent. Commissioner Previtali.
Yes.
Commissioner Samudzi is absent. Commissioner Schock.
Present.
Yes, vote for the minutes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. So sorry.
Vice Chair Haveman.
Yes.
And Chair Saudi.
Yes.
Minutes pass.
Great. Our next item is a hearing for consideration of revocation of the use permit for George's Nightclub located at 842 4th Street. Leslie, can we please have the staff report?
Oops. Yes. And
just a reminder to try to speak a little slower.
just the button and press here. Okay. Thank you, Director Giudice. Good evening, Chair Saudi, Planning Commissioners, and members of the public. I am Leslie Mendez, Planning Manager and presenter for the revocation hearing for Use Permit 05-01, which allows live entertainment in a cocktail lounge as part of a restaurant supper club, doing business as George's Nightclub at 842 4th Street. Joining me this evening are Alicia Giudice, Community Development Director, Chief Spiller from the Police Department, Ana Santiago, Senior Code Enforcement Supervisor, and Staff's Legal Counsel, Connor McLean from the firm of Burke, Williams, and Sorensen. In addition, Eli Fleshman, also from Burke, Williams, and Sorensen, is in virtual attendance and will be serving as Planning Commission's legal counsel. Staff has retained the required separation between counsels and has not been consulting with or in discussion with Mr. Fleshman, who is available this evening for any legal questions that the Commission has. First, a brief use history for the subject site. Through different iterations, George's Nightclub has been in operation 4 decades at the current location. With the original use permit for live entertainment being granted in 1984. After the use permit expired in 2001, a new business owner purchased the property in 2004 and applied for a use permit 05-01, which the Planning Commission approved in 2006 for the business to operate as a restaurant supper club with a cocktail lounge and live entertainment. The use permit includes several conditions of approval to monitor operations, site management and security, business license maintenance, hours of operation, and operation as a bona fide eating place or full service restaurant. The permit was also approved upon finding that the use, together with the conditions of approval, would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity or to the general welfare of the city. Evolution Nightclub, doing business as George's Nightclub, took over operations in 2013. Although shuttered during the early stages of the COVID pandemic, operation resumed almost 2 years ago in April of 2021. Live entertainment commenced on May 25th of that year, with continuous live entertainment occurring every weekend since. Throughout the years, the San Rafael Police Department has received numerous calls to respond to incidences at George's Nightclub. However, since the business reopened in the spring of 2021, there has been an increased frequency of calls related to incidents at or related to the nightclub. In July 2021, a shooting and double homicide involving people associated with a performance at the club occurred off-site at a nearby parking garage. Following the incident, a code enforcement officer was assigned to conduct inspections to ensure compliance with the terms and conditions as established as part of the use permit. Numerous violations were noted, detailed, and conveyed to Ms. Figueroa, the nightclub operator, in a letter dated September 8th, 2021, with a request to correct and comply. As little to no movement has made to come into compliance with conditions of use permit approval, and as calls to the police regarding the business operations continue to be ongoing, staff took the step of bringing the use permit up for revocation. I now turn to permit conditions in which the business continues to be in non-compliance. Just to note that these will be presented in order of detrimental impact, not numerical order. First, business licenses. In accordance with the San Rafael Municipal Code, use permit condition number 11 requires that the business operator maintain a valid business license and that any contract employees, such as disc jockeys or bands, music entertainment, obtain a valid business license prior to working at the site. George's Nightclub does not currently have a valid business license. It expired on January 1st of 2022. The business license for the restaurant operator that was once in existence there, Pibil Yucatan Food, expired on January 1st, 2021. There is no record of any other entity obtaining a business license to entertain or work on site. Although the venue's business license has been delinquent since January 1st of last year, the business has continued operations and has held concerts and events every weekend. Next, conditions 18 through 20 require the business to operate as a full restaurant or a bona fide eating place and serve food during their regular business hours. Condition 20 defines a bona fide eating place as one that, among other things, has suitable kitchen facilities for cooking of an assortment of foods, which may be required for meals, has a primary use of a sit-down service with alcoholic beverages only served at tables or sit-down counters by employees of the restaurant, and a bona fide eating place, service of alcohol beverages is supposed to be incidental, representing less than 51% of food sales. George's Nightclub has not been operating as a bona fide eating place. Not only does the business advertise on social media as a nightclub, with all references to restaurant use or food service or menus absent or removed, but there is no active environmental health license for a food service operation on site since reopening after COVID. Numerous staff inspections, as detailed in the staff report, evidenced only service of limited pre-prepared foods, such as chicken wings, as well as underused and out-of-use kitchen facilities. Conditions 12 and 14 regulate site security and management. The use permit requires that a site manager and no fewer than 4 security personnel be on site at all times when there is live entertainment. In addition, it requires all security personnel to be licensed by the state of California as private patrol and wear clothing clearly identifying themselves as security personnel. The security personnel are responsible for ensuring that all patrons are of valid drinking age and for managing patron activity inside and within 200 feet of the building. On responses to calls to the site, police have evidenced less than 4 security guards on site, as well as evidence guards not wearing identifying uniforms. Additionally, as documented in the staff report, police have responded to frequent and numerous incidents of patrons over intoxication, loitering, as well as fights and assaults that have occurred on site, all of which signify business operations being mismanaged. As mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, for a use permit to be approved by the city, it must be found that the proposed use, together with the conditions of approval, will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity, or to general welfare of the city. As documented in the staff report and attachments, the police respond to frequent and ongoing service calls regarding activities involving patrons of George Nightclub. Police have confirmed that the activity and call volume related to the business is disproportionate to any other venue of its type, more than 3-fold. And responses require deviation from other emergency services and patrol operations, most typically during peak periods of activity throughout the city. Based on the analysis of the calls for service associated with this venue, staff believes George's Nightclub operates in a manner which causes detriment and creates situations that constitute a public nuisance. The following correspondence and notices regarding permit violations in the revocation hearing were shared with the property owner. As previously mentioned, in September of 2021, the Community Development Director sent a letter to Ms. Figueroa, the nightclub operator, outlining use permit violations. On February 9th, 2023, CDD Community Development staff sent a letter as well to the property owner, and business operator outlining outstanding conditions of noncompliance and informing them of the proposed revocation hearing. A revised letter was sent on February 27th of 2023, which included the updated hearing date of tonight, March 28th. And on March 3rd of this year, written public notice was sent to all property owners, business owners, residents, and interested parties located within 300 feet of the subject site. Staff has received no public comment regarding this hearing. Given that George's Nightclub continues to operate in non-compliance with fundamental conditions required of the use permit and continues to cause frequent and ongoing disturbances requiring police intervention, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution revoking use permit 050-01. I am here to answer any questions along with the rest of staff in attendance. However, before we turn to questions, I would like the opportunity for the business owner to speak. Thank you. Ms. Figueroa? Will you be presenting tonight or speaking, or do you want to respond?
Hello.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. My name is Leslie. The owner of George's Nightclub almost for 10 years. And I can hear I was listening to everything in his sayings. Most of them is not like we talked with Leslie before. We have a meeting before this hearing. And some of them are not true. Some are the false. And I believe why the police is the one came over the club many times, several times, just without a call or anything, and came over to tell me what I had to do. And and no, I'm not okay with this, with everything he's saying about me, about my club. It's not true. It's not what they say. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? We'll save any comments for discussion after the public hearing.
I have a question for staff. I obviously want to be sensitive to Ms. Figueroa's ability to continue doing business there, but perhaps in a different form that's not so detrimental to the city as has been purported, and the evidence seems to suggest. I do plan to vote in favor of rescinding the conditional use permit. However, I think it would be useful to understand what other businesses could be operated in that space.
That's a great question. So I don't have the list in front of me, but this is located in the downtown precise plan, which allows by right numerous uses, retail uses, office uses, as well as restaurant uses are allowed by right. So what wouldn't be allowed by right would be the live entertainment kind of nightclub aspect of it.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. I have a question in regards to, I know several letters have been written to Ms. Figueroa. And you had mentioned that there was no public comment. Was there a response from Ms. Figueroa? Like, does that account for both the neighbors, both the business neighbors as well as the owner herself?
So let me see if I understand your question. So after I sent the letter back in February noticing the meeting, it was actually Ms. Figueroa who let me know I had the year wrong for the proposed hearing. So she did receive that letter, and based on when she reached out to me, we took the opportunity to set up a time to meet in person. So I met with her and along with Ms. Santiago, code enforcement, and her son, to just go over, what was in the letter, what we were proposing, what the procedure was like, and just answer any questions she had. So that is the really the only outreach. Like, I have received no emails or letters or other phone calls related to this item tonight. Did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think, yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Haveman?
Just a little follow-up. So we haven't heard anything from neighboring businesses. I know the Chamber of Commerce has been noticed. We haven't heard anything from the Chamber of Commerce.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. And do we think that there is any other similar establishment in Santa Fe that has similar troubles, or is George's truly unique?
Well, the police could answer that, but based on the information from the police, it's more than threefold in the amount of disturbances that the police have to respond to related to New George's nightclub. And I will mention, obviously, weekends are more popular for any group, frats or what have you. But George's nightclub is also only open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So the fact that there's a threefold amount of incidents related to those activities that are operating 3 days out of a 7-day work week is
right,
significant.
Right. And everything in the report focuses on the post-COVID time period. Do we have any information about pre-COVID? Where the problems? We
do. Not for presentation tonight. I think what happened post-COVID was an escalation of incidents, and I don't know if Chief Spiller wants to add anything to that.
Good evening, commissioners. I walked all the way up here to say I don't have anything to add to that. So this, our pattern of response really began in the summer of 2021. So that's when the establishment really got on our radar. Years before that, I wasn't working here at that point, and I don't have any historical information to present tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just while you're up there, I had a question for you. I'm just curious, like, as a follow-up to Ms. Figueroa's claim that some of these accusations are false, or all of them are, how many police officers observed this activity that we're using to base our conclusion on?
So since
approximately
July of 21, we've had over 30 responses to the establishment. Mm-hmm. There are times when a police officer or two police officers will do a walkthrough, kind of like a security check of a bar or a bar and restaurant type of a venue. But the 30 incidents that I make reference to were all calls where we had been summoned, or a police officer on-viewed something coming from the establishment.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it wasn't the case of just one officer who may have some sort of like bias. It was multiple officers.
Yeah, multiple officers on different patrol teams. Yes.
Thank you.
I actually have a question for you while you're up here as well. Thank you. Just to follow up on these kind of questions, what is the documentation that the department has regarding the incidences? Is it the reports? Is there body cam? I think, beyond the incidences, it seems like they're well into a number of violations, but it'd be good to know that we can verify the claims from that owner.
Yeah. So anytime there was a assault, anytime there was an arrest or anything like that, there would be a police case. There are incidents documented for every incident that took place. So regardless if a formal police report is taken, there is a CAD, or computer-aided dispatch system, will log an incident. As the pattern of our multiple responses started, each of the watch commanders are responsible for highlighting significant activity on each shift, and there's a summary of each of those incidents, activities, or responses. So all of these are documented formally.
Thank you.
One more question for B. Regarding over intoxication.
Yes.
I forget the exact term that was used in the report, but are you familiar with the law that requires, I think it requires bartenders to monitor the intoxication of customers? If so, could you describe that?
Yeah, so the establishment requires LEAD training, which is alcohol and drug recognition for servers or security staff. It is a violation of the law to serve an obviously intoxicated person, and that's the reference that you're making. In our work with the owner, my staff, both the patrol captain, one of the patrol lieutenants, as well as fire staff, had met with the owner, talked about some of the vulnerabilities in an attempt to work through some of the problems in the wake of our responses. And we underscored the importance of that training. So we had visited that particular issue with the owner, with Ms. Figueroa.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Schock, did you have another question?
I just had one more question going back to my earlier one, is if the owner had ever given context or reason to not, to some of this feedback. And obviously, for example, with food, not being served on a regular basis, or has it consistently been, as she mentioned earlier, that that's not the case?
Yeah, as it relates to food, that's really more of a community development question. But we had met with the owner and tried to address all of the conditions of the approved conditional use permit in an attempt to prevent the multiple responses, and they continued.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff or code compliance? I actually have a question for code compliance. Hi there.
Hi, my name is Anna Santiago.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for being present tonight. My question is really about enforcement at this point, in terms of if we go ahead and revoke the permit, conditional use permit, what is the procedure that the city takes in order to essentially shut down that use at that location?
We'd be working with the city attorney to follow all the steps to make sure that, sorry, can you hear me now? Okay. We would work with the city attorney to make sure the appropriate steps were taken to make sure that we have given her whatever opportunity to appeal or whatever. If she continues to operate after that, I would have to come in and start writing a notice in order, which is a notice to abate in order to correct. And then after that, I would be issuing citations and taking her to a hearing.
Great. I have another question regarding code enforcement's history on the site. Well, dated back to 2020 or 2021. Can you describe the number and the matters? You don't have to go through each one, but generally how many times you've met with the owner, and just if you've given her the opportunity to hear. I mean, we know that these letters have been written, but just knowing that she was in full understanding of the violations that were taking place, and if there was any response from her that was written, or was it just discussion? Just a discussion. Leslie and I, Mendez, sat down with her and actually ended up having a Spanish conversation with her, as I'm bilingual. And so she said she understood what was going on. She also brought up that the police
at that time were not giving her a fair shake. I'm not sure, but in the staff report, I went undercover there. And so I don't look Latin. So I tend to push that button a little bit more. I walked into the kitchen. There was nothing cooking. But I did get wings that night, you know. I tried to make sure that the hallway was clear. Their security staff was out front smoking marijuana before they even went into the club. And there was only 3 there. And so from there, that was the only time that I went undercover to verify what they were doing. They were pouring alcohol. The second you were finished one, they came, you need another. And then they had a DJ that night and then a band. So it ended up getting a little crowded.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering those questions.
Absolutely.
Chair Sodi, if I could also just say that a letter was sent by Director Giudice to Ms. Figueroa back in September of 2021. And Ms. Figueroa did respond to Director Giudice and did pay a deposit that was required that had been an outstanding, non-compliant condition. So there was communication back in September of 2021 with a clear outline of most of the same conditions that were non-compliant as are listed in the staff report tonight.
Thank you, Leslie. I have one last question for you. You may need to direct this to others in the room, but other staff. From the staff report, the amount of violations and items that the business has that have been directed towards the business since 2021 seem to be extreme, or they seem to be over the normal amount that a typical business would have. Without them having a license and the shooting. I guess my question is, were there discussions earlier on pulling the use prior to today's date? And I know we're trying to give her the opportunity to respond, but it does seem like the public safety aspect is present.
So we did have those conversations, and our first priority or hope was to get the business into compliance, for her to retain the business and to operate it and to provide a music venue that provides diversity and entertainment to the community. So there were a few months that was the goal, and it didn't occur. And then maybe workload got a little bit in the way for the slight delay. But then when we realized that this was not coming into compliance and the police calls were still ongoing, then we realized we did have to pick it up.
Thank you. Are any commissioners have any more questions for staff?
And before, I just want to, I was advised by our counsel that as the Planning Commission, in order to revoke a use permit hearing, you can revoke a use permit hearing for non-compliance of permit conditions or for public nuisance findings, or a combination of them both. So it doesn't need to be both. You can do it based on just non-compliance of conditions of approval, or just on public nuisance findings. So just wanted to relay that information to you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Question about that.
Yeah.
Are there any differences in the ramifications based on how we define the revocation?
The differences come up if the revocation were to be appealed. If you revoked only on one, then at the appeal, you couldn't bring up the other. If you revoked based on both, then at the appeal, the applicant would have to appeal both issues and have to once again prove that there were no violations and no public nuisance.
Okay.
Great. could you remind us of the definition of public nuisance, please?
Yeah, a public nuisance is something that causes a detriment to the health, safety, or wait, there's one more thing. What'd you say? Or welfare, that's it. Or welfare of the community. There's also like different, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that when we're proceeding, we understand what we're actually asking for.
Does the city have a request or recommendation about that detail?
About
why, whether we use both reasons or one or the other?
Staff believes that the business is in non-compliance with conditions of its use permit approval, and also believes it is a public nuisance that the findings can be made.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Great. Leslie, can you open the public hearing at this time?
Yes. However, there is no one aside from the business owner in attendance tonight besides staff.
Great.
So we can.
Okay. Yeah, do we want to just repeat on Zoom that, or on, if anybody's watching on YouTube Live, that they can log into Zoom,
right?
If they'd like to add comment.
Yes. So if you are participating, let me read my little comment, please. Participating, and if you would like to call in, let me get the call-in number really quickly. Please dial 1-669-444-9171. The meeting ID is 815-0028-1975 #. And we'll give everyone a few minutes.
Yeah, I think, we can give people a minute just to, I thank you for everybody's patience here.
I also feel like, just for the sake of protocol, since we've spoken about this, it probably is good to allow the business owner to participate in the public hearing after hearing our comments, even though she already participated initially. Because I think the public it's customary for the public to respond to our comments and questions and whatnot during the public hearing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we'd be open to that. She's a member of the public.
Exactly.
And if we really don't have a long line of commenters. So we'll give her.
I think that would be fine to provide the applicant opportunity to respond to any of the comments that we've had, or if you had any additional questions directly to her as well.
Thank you.
Great. Leslie, I don't know if you would like to provide any more responses or comments, or to the commissioners if you have any questions directly from Ms. Figueroa.
Just say, perhaps for the sake of procedures here, we can note that nobody has called in for public comment, and then proceed to the whether the applicant has any responses. That would be my suggestion.
Hello?
Yes, hi, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I was reading is about you say you have interpreted right there, right, in Spanish? So I think it's better for me to speak Spanish. I'm Latina, like as Mrs. Santiago say.
Great, go ahead.
Yes, please proceed.
In Spanish?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So, estaba viendo uno de los puntos que ellos dijeron fue de la licencia de la comida, que insisten que yo no la tengo, y yo tengo la licencia de venta de comida en Evolution Nightclub. No es George's. George's es conocido por años, pero es Evolution Nightclub en restaurant. Así es. Entonces está la licencia vigente. El otro punto que hablado es de los 4 seguridad, que no han tenido su... la señora Santiago que estaba ahí dijo que vio a alguien que estaba fumando marihuana, eso es algo que yo no puedo manejar porque estaba fuera de la hora de trabajar. Entonces, eso no lo podía manejar yo. Son 4 seguridad lo que he tenido todas las noches y tengo cómo probarlo. El otro punto que estaba diciendo la señora Santiago fue de que los chicken wings habían sido cocinados nada más y que ella no vio. Tengo un cocinero al que le pago semanalmente y no solamente está eso, hay tacos de carne, hay tacos de pollo. También ella estaba viendo yo que ella en su reporte, y la tuve enfrente de mí, no pude hablar con ella, en el reporte estaba diciendo que una bebida se la cobraron más y no fue así. Yo quiero decir esto, tuve una fiesta de negros, voy a decir así, que tenía antes. Desde entonces han utilizado mi...
Perdón, is there a way for some interpretation to be provided to the commission so we can understand, so we can make sure everyone's understanding what?
Sorry. Sorry, they just took me off so I can interpret.
Okay.
Señora Figueroa, le voy a interpretar lo que ha dicho hasta el momento, okay?
Sí.
So I'm gonna interpret what she said so far. She said that she wanted to address a couple of the points. Yes, she does have a license for food. And with respect to the marijuana, it's something that she can't control because that person was off shift. When the other lady came, she said that there were only chicken wings, but she did have chicken tacos and other items of food. Okay, señora Figueroa, entonces dijo que desde que tuvo la fiesta para negros, dijo, desde entonces.
Siempre tuve eventos de hip hop y de toda clase, bodas, quinceañeras, de toda clase, porque tenemos la cocina ahí. Entonces, esta vez fue un evento de hip hop. Desde ese entonces, la policía me ha puesto como un target a mí, diciendo que yo traigo mal grupos a San Rafael.
Okay, permítame un segundito. Okay, so she said that she has parties, hip hop parties, all types of parties, weddings, quinceañeras, and since she had a hip hop party one time, she's been targeted by the police who say that she brings bad groups to San Rafael.
¿Sigo?
Sí, por favor.
Sí. Entonces hubo un incidente 3 blocks de George's Nightclub esa noche. Sin embargo, ellos vinieron a pelear conmigo, la policía, fue una mujer y todos, y que fueron, que había sido porque yo había hecho ese evento. Y un policía me dijo que por qué yo no mejor hacía eventos latinos y ya no eventos negros, porque ellos eran problemáticos. Y
okay, permítame. So there was an incident 3 blocks from George's that night, but the police came to see me. Actually, it was a woman who came and said that this had happened because of the event that I had there. And the police told me, why don't I do parties for Latinos, not for Black people, because these cause problems. Okay, adelante.
Entonces, ella me dijo que no tenía que hacer más ese tipo de eventos. Sin embargo, no hubo nada que comprometiera mi club, porque hubo investigaciones de parte de la policía, estuvieron hasta personas que venían, los bomberos, vinieron todos a mi club y yo les entregué las cámaras, les entregué todo. Después de la investigación, se dio a conocer que mi club no tuvo nada que ver con ese evento. Sin embargo, desde esa fecha me he sentido como un target, que es a mí, a que buscan siempre problemas, y yo sé que hay más bares alrededor y no son solo los míos, los clientes que vienen de mí que están borrachos, como ellos, la policía me ha dicho.
Okay. So the police said I shouldn't do any more of those parties because it compromises my club. But there was an investigation. I gave them all everything that they needed, the cameras. There were everybody came, the firefighters, everybody. I gave them everything from my cameras, and at the end of the day, they saw that my club was not involved in this. But I still feel like a target. They look at me when things happen, and there are other clubs around my business that have drunk people as well. Okay, adelante.
Entonces, después del COVID, que ha sido muy difícil para mí, del COVID, sin embargo, he seguido adelante. Voy a cumplir casi 10 años de estar en Evolution Nightclub, trabajando bien, y hasta ahora vinieron ellos que me quieren revocar el permiso. Y si yo he hecho las cosas, he tratado de hacer las cosas bien.
Okay. So after COVID, it's because this has been hard for me. After COVID, I've continued, and I've been almost 10 years with Evolution Nightclub, and it's going well. Now they want to revoke. We want to revoke my license, and all I'm doing is trying to do things correctly. ¿Algo más, señora?
Sí, lo único que quiero decir es que me siento triste por todo lo que estoy pasando. Esto me está enfermando. Y yo era la dueña del edificio y el año pasado yo perdí mi edificio de George's Nightclub. Ahora solamente soy la dueña de Evolution Nightclub y Restaurant. Y yo quiero que escuchen mi parte también porque soy una mamá soltera y lo único que quiero es trabajar y hacer las cosas bien y ayudar a la comunidad, que es lo que he hecho. Gracias.
Okay, the last thing I want to say is that I feel this makes me sad. What I'm going through, it's making me sick. I was the owner of the building of George's, but last year I lost that, and now I'm just the owner of Evolution Nightclub. I want to say too that I'm a single mother. I'm just trying to work well and help the community. Thank you.
Okay, Leslie, at this time, thank you, Ms. Figueroa, for your added comments. And Leslie, at this time, I want to go ahead and close the public hearing, assuming we have nobody else that's waiting to speak.
There's nobody else.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the commissioners for any comments or discussion. I do have a question for you, Leslie. I know it's not typical that we continue to ask questions because we've already closed the public hearing. But
we've closed the public hearing. We really can. If you want to ask me a question, I can hopefully answer it and help you through it. That would be fine. But we can't have a discussion with the staff.
Thank you, Eli. I appreciate that. So with that, would anyone like to start the discussion?
Could we pause for 1 second, please?
Sure.
I would add that you could vote to open the public hearing again and ask a question if you needed to. But I'll leave that to you to decide.
Yeah, I think we have a very complete staff report, as well as we've had the opportunity to listen to staff and ask numerous questions. So I don't see that as a necessary step. So I will go ahead and ask any commissioners if they'd like to start with any discussion points. Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Go ahead. Okay, great.
Yeah. Needless to say, this is a horrible situation. So I really feel sorry for Figueroa. But it seems like, my opinion is that she's been given warnings. The city has made an effort to try to work with her to remediate the situation. And it seems like having a business like this is just, it's beyond, I don't know if it's beyond her control, but it's basically the business is not being managed consistent with the conditional use permit, unfortunately. And, I hope that, she can, successfully operate a different business there. So that's my perspective.
Thank you, Commissioner. Would you like to go, Commissioner Hickman?
Sure. I'll echo that. I'm deeply disappointed that we're here doing this tonight. And I agree. It's unfortunate for her. It's unfortunate for the city of Santa Fe. I think it provided, an important source of entertainment back in the day. I've enjoyed it on numerous occasions. So I'm disappointed. But opportunity was there. Opportunity was not exploited to rectify the situation. She says she feels like she was targeted, but there were, the evidence following the shooting suggests that there was still lots going on that was wrong, and could have been cleaned up. So yeah, I regret that we're here tonight discussing this, but it seems like it was inevitable.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schock, would you like to go? No, now that the public hearing is closed, we can't.
Thank you. I echo in many ways what the other commissioners were just saying. This is just really unfortunate because I know that your nightclub provides so much for so many people. But just given all of the reports and incidents and facts that have been shared throughout this extensive report, I just thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schock. I agree that this is really a difficult thing that nobody wants to do. We know that we really want to support businesses downtown and keep an active life in the downtown to help, add to our community. I think, Ms. Figueroa has been given an adequate opportunity to address numerous violations, public nuisance issues. I think regardless of her rebuttal, we still are seeing a real public safety issue here, and having people overserved, having violence, and not having adequate security is a threat to the members of our community, because somebody could be driving, somebody could be assaulted, and I think that far outweighs giving her another opportunity to rectify the violations and the public nuisance that has taken place here. I also think there's been no regard to the conditions of approval since 2021. It's clear there's not even a business license. So from that standpoint, even if there was a feeling that she's been targeted and that the establishment has been targeted, those violations or those conditions are not being met. So that's what I have to add. Leslie, if we want to go ahead and entertain a motion, is that appropriate this time?
If you are done with deliberation.
Yes, it's appropriate to entertain a motion now. If you're ready for it and you feel you have adequately had deliberations, you can take a motion.
Great.
Actually, I have a question for Eli.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Eli. Yeah.
We were allowed to ask questions of Eli. Yeah. Eli, did you hear someone, the interpreter, say that she actually has a business license?
my interpretation of it is not really relevant. I mean, I did hear that, but I would, it's your deliberation and what you guys heard is what's important. So, I mean, yes, I did hear that. I've also seen in the staff report indication that there was not. I mean, if you wanted to open the public hearing to ask a question of staff on that issue, you certainly are able to do that. You'd have to take a vote to do so.
So I thought I heard her say that she had a license to serve food, which is distinct from, I believe, a business license.
Okay. Thank you. I understand that. All right.
Would anyone like to propose a motion on this item?
Yeah, I'll propose the motion to revoke the conditional use permit for both reasons cited. It's a violation of the conditions of the permit and also public nuisance. If I stated that correctly.
There's a draft resolution that has been prepared for adoption here. So I think the motion would be whether or not you are seeking to adopt the draft resolution, or if you have any changes to it, to then make some changes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I propose a motion to adopt the draft resolution.
Commissioner Haveman, I'll second the motion.
Okay. Leslie, can you go ahead and take roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Mercado is absent. Commissioner Previtali.
Aye.
Commissioner Samudzi is absent. Commissioner Schock.
Yes.
Vice Chair Haveman.
Yes.
And Chair Saudi.
Yes. Okay. We'll now move on to the director's report. Thank you for everybody for helping us discuss this item and and being here to support the overall discussion.
Great. So, commissioner updates. Last meeting, you asked for an update on new planning commissioners, and I was told that we are hoping to hold interviews in the next coming weeks. So hopefully we will have a full house sometime soon. I also want to say that the city received a letter from HCD with comments on our draft housing element with some minor modifications. That letter is available on our webpage. And that item, the revised staff will be working to address those comments. It will be coming to you for recommendation once it's been revised. The second meeting in April, which is April 26th. On that meeting as well, there should be a couple of zoning changes to change properties to be in compliance with the housing element. But before that, on April 12th, which is your next Planning Commission meeting, we also have an item which is 1515 4th Street, which is just located here at the Old Bank Building, and it's 162 mixed-use property. That is density bonus and includes 13 very low-income units. So that went to DRB on the 7th and will be before you next month. And that is all I have for the director's report.
Thank you, Leslie. Do any planning commissioners have any communication at this time?
I do. As Commissioner Haveman, between our last meeting and tonight, I had the privilege of attending 2 design review board meetings, and 3 matters were discussed at those meetings. One was, and I think it was just polishing off a design review board conversation about wild care expansion and remodel. It was not a controversial meeting, and they unanimously approved what was going on. The second was 1515 4th Street. Which, as Leslie indicated, is 162 units. It is a tall building. It's across the street from Kane's Tire across Shaver Street. And a couple of the issues, one is that the parking lot exits onto Shaver Street, open space on the roof. There's concern about the noise, and the height is unusual for the area. I anticipate that we will have a significant amount of public comment on April 11th, I think.
12th.
12th is a Wednesday.
Ugh. You sure?
Anyway, And the third matter was 380 Margarita Drive. It's a single family residence high up on a hill. A couple of issues include a 17-foot retaining wall and the potential for an above ground water tank. I think it passed through the DRB and anticipate that we will see it before too long. All three of those?
Yes, April 11th.
Great. Thank you for that report. It's good to know what we have coming ahead of us. If we have no other communication from the board, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Actually, if I could just
Yeah.
for a second, in the staff report for tonight, I noted that there was never.
I'm sorry. The item is closed, and we're done with the hearing on that issue. You might want to talk to the planning director about it if you have any comments about future for staff reports.
Great. This meeting is adjourned.